We got the page Shin Nun Aleph. We were learning really the blurb in the RASHASH on page Shin Mem Ches, for just to get us back to the place we were, where the had said where this shefa that we're bringing is going to go. It's going to the Chachma, the Chachma. So we have an idea what he's talking about there. Really different ideas. One is that it's referring to the joints of the right side. That's three different joints, different kinds of things they said. The Shlosha Partzufim Kochov. So we had dealt with already the two Partzufim of Chagadnai. So he calls this, and maybe we're going to get into that today. Yeah. So we're going to get into that today. They're called Echad Mechamesha Partzufi Bina. So it turns out there's a Kochov, but there's 5 Partzufim of Bina. We're dealing with 3 of them. Partzuf Ashlishi. This is the third Partzuf. Dema Deza. Okay, the right side of the right side is their Anpen. The Kitzoni is the Benimi is the Benimi B'makiv. So we went through that a little bit. It's still a hard language. We'll go over here to number Kaf Tes. Let me just see if I got my numbers right. Okay, I guess I do. Oh, it goes a little bit, a little ways. Okay, so after this, I'm going to go back to Drush 12, the 12th Drush, Metz Hashem, and we'll see that. Some of this we've seen a couple of years ago. He said, number Kaf Tes is the Shlosha Partzufi Kochov. He said, Mevoyer Kansha Mochen de Gadlus, which is the Nechi, Nimshach and the Shloshus Partzufim Kochov. So they get divided up into Kochov in a kind of a backwards way. The way that Nechi would be, so it would be, Yachan, would go with Kochov, Pratim, to call parts of the Orech. So it goes into each one of them, the parts of the Orech, Mochen de Kadlus, which is the Ner, Nimshach and the Shnei Partzufi Nai V'Chagad, so the Ner part of the Naranchi, the Oros, now we're talking about the Benimius, are going to go into the Chagad the Nahi Pratim to call parts of the Orech. So I was saying that it's already that another place we saw that was already in. It's enough to get confused here really easily. But came the SEFIRAT HAOMER. So there's this sitter, he says. A SEFIRAT HAOMER Chotzos Av Shalom. Apparently, came out from Av Shalom. Azai b'yomim sheniknasim b'chem hamochin de gadlus. So in those times, those days that mochin de gadlus comes in. The godless, he says, Yomin, Aleph, Base, Dalet, Vav, and Zion. Right? He left out the Katniss. The Kol Shavua. Sidra, the Kavin, Kol Hamshacha, all the flow, Shlosha Pamim, 3 different times. Now, let's see, on the days that we're dealing with godless, we have 3 different times, he says, Kavin, Kol Hamshacha, Shlosha Pamim. So we have to have the kavanah that is going to all 3 of them. He says 3 different times. The Shloshus Partzufi Kochov, and those are going to go into the Shloshus Partzufi of the Kochov Aparatim to call parts of the Orech. So if you looked at Orech, there's 10 spheros from the top to the bottom, and the top 3 are going to be Kochov. The Shlosha Partzufim Kochov, each one of the Kesser is a Partzuf, Chochman's a Partzuf, Bin is a Partzuf, specifically those Partzufim within another Partzuf, within other Partzufim, which are the called Partzuf the Orech, every single Partzuf of Orech. So I guess he's talking about chabad chagtam there, I guess. The Nimsa Shehim Kaf Aleph Hamshachos, so therefore, since there's going to be 21 Hamshachos. So the called parts of Meshevach, Partzufi, Chabad, Chagtam. So in other words, it's going to be three different Chamshachos to each one of the 7. So he said the Chavad Chacham to Ovi, Nisadra Hamshacha la'atzmo. So each one of them gets a Hamshacha bar itself. For call Hamshacha Meguvanim, all of the flow. I got the word flow now. I'm liking that better. Kol hamshacha mekuvana d'shloshes pa'amim keneged kachov kenizka. So every hamshacha has to go in threes. So I didn't really look at it closely to see whether I see the threes in the diagram or not. If a yomer shebechem is pashte mamochin dekadnas, on those days, Yomim Gimel Hey and Hey, the Kol Shavua. So there's two times where Mocha Dekadnas comes in. Sidracha B'Kol Chamshachal Shtei Pamim. So we only do it two times. Keneged Shtei Bechinas and Nefesh and Ruach. So the explanation, or the thing that I've been saying about where I saw that he said is to really process all of this, is where he said Nefesh and Ruach already came in, but here we see that the Mocha Dekadnas are coming back in again. And we're dealing with Kadnas during this time anyway. Keneged Shtei Bechinas Nefesh Ruach Demochin, and it corresponds to these Nefesh Ruach Demochin, and Nimshach and the Shnei Partzufi Chagatnai that are going to go into the Chagatnai. They're brought them to call parts of the Orech. V'heim Yud Dalad Hamshachos. So instead of 21, there's going to be 14, 2 times 7. Okay, so that's what he says, looking into it really, really deep. Then to go to the next one, he said to call Echad Machamesha Partzufi Bina. So this was one we had to think about. This is that he says there are apparently all different kinds of paths that this has to go through. So besides that you're bringing down 3 hamshachos to every one of the chagtam, you're also getting involved in the fact that the chagtam is existing in a master partzuf, which is the parts of a bina. That's where it's coming from. And bina has 3 different, different partzufim. Betiv. So in the Tivi Biarnu, we dekoi adelael that this is talking about what we said above shachar shlosha partzufim heim betoch hamesha partzufim, that we tell the 3 partzufim that we're talking about, which I thought is kachov, or the mochim for kachov. Heim betoch hamesha partzufim. That's 3 out of the 5. The fi zechav v'chaloshan the shlosha partzufi kachov, where we say that line, the 3 partzufim of the kachov, they call echad mechamisha partzufi bina kosher the homo. So it's really hard to swallow this. What does he actually mean? It's hard to understand it. Elahu ki ilocha ben emesh shlosha partzufi kachov. It's as if he said 3 partzufim of kachov, b'toch chamisha partzufi bina, of the 3 partzufim bina. So that's hard, really. As I read it again, it's really hard to understand. Elahu ke'ilu ne'emar. It's as if he's saying shlosha partzufi kachov. So we have these partzufim makachov, and they're going to go into the chamisha partzufim of bina. He said v'tzarach iyun. So they're going to go, this kachov, they're going to go in through the partzufim. They have to go through the partzufim of bina before it gets to, so I think he says someplace else, maybe he'll say it here, that they're in Ovi. So I don't know. So therefore, that's kind of leads you into nowhere land. So he says that the yeshnach is partos. So he says there's another way to split them up. Let's think of Bina now. The big Bina of Zer Anpin. We're not in Bina, we're in Zer Anpin. So all of the rest of the partzufim, same thing. If you looked at them, there are actually 5 partzufim there in Ovi. And so with those, then things will get divided up into these partzufim of Ovi. Then Ovi is really duplicates. The Hainu Shekal echad mechem nechlach liyud ala partzufim v'ovi, that each one of them is divided into 11 partzufim in thickness. Hakololim call echad yud ala partzufim de'orech. Now, where does he get the number 11? B'zecha v'kavad naso kan. So this is what he's trying to say here. Shechaham shacha hanaasis kan. He l'kol hachamisha partzufim de'ovi, the parts of bina hakolel. Now, up above he says, it's just really, difficult for me. So, Hamshacha Na'asis Kam Hi Hakolo, the excuse me, he l'kol hachamisha partzufim the Ovi. So the hamshacha, the flow, is going to all of the 5 partzufim of Ovi, the parts of the bina hakola, which come to the parts of the bina hakola. So I wanted to think that it's coming from the bina. We're talking about bina, the bina, not the bina of Zeranpin, but he mentions Zeranpin, which we'll read again. The Lamashal b'yom rishon the Sefira. So let's see how this works. Nimshach in the mochin the Partzufi chochma the arich. So we said that the mochin are going to go there, and where they're going to go? They're going to go to the chabad chagtam the Ovi. Okay, we have no problem with that. Call echad mechamisha Partzufim the Ovi, because each one of the Partzufim the Ovi, the parts of the bina chakola the zer anpin, of the Partzufim bina the kol the zer anpin. Now I'm read it again. Okay, let's see. V'lumashal b'yom rishon the Sefira of the Sefira. Nimshachim amochin the Partzufim chochma the orach. No problem there. So which Partzufim the chabad chagtam the Ovi? No problem there. That's where they're going. Called echad mechamisha Partzufim the Ovi, but the same thing is of all of the 5 Partzufim of Ovi. There are 5 Partzufim that they have to go into before you get to the concept of the Partzufi of, say for example, he said chochma the chabad chagtam. So in Ovi there are 5 duplicates before you get an inside. Maybe say an inside of every one of them is a chabad chagtam. The parts of the bina hakol the zer anpin are the greater parts of kolel zer anpin. There's big parts of the 5 partzufim in there, and each one of the partzufim has a chabad chagtam, and each one of them is going to get the shefa that we're talking about of these 3 mochi. And b'kol makom lo mitzinu mi shetzarek l'kfol hagavana chamisha pa'amim. But we don't see, I guess, anyone who actually wrote or printed this, that you were supposed to double the kavanah 5 different times. Nobody actually ever wrote that down. I think that's what he means. I don't know. So there's a lot going on here. So I thought, the original thought that I had, that he was talking about the 5 Partzufim of Bina. So he probably is. And so the whole thing has to go through the 5 Partzufim of Bina. And where's it going to go to? It's going to be go to the 5 Partzufim of the bina of Zeranpin. And each one of those Partzufim, the bina of the Zeranpin, it's going to go to a chochma, which was contained in the chabad chagtam of that particular Partzuf. This is so complicated. Then he goes into the next one, numbered Lamed Aleph, and he says, so we decided that this is going to be the most. I keep playing around with this other idea, but I haven't got anything to beat this. So the Narantha would be the lowest part of the Narantha, the or lahachen, the chochma, the kol pratim, and its karim la'el to the right side of chochma, of all of the detail, and its karim la'el to Yaakov and Rachel is ultimately, as we say, going down this right line, it's going to wind up going to Yaakov and Rachel. Kol bechinas mochin kolula bechamesha bechinas ranchi. So let's say that when we talk about mochin, inside of the mochin are oros. Those oros on the ranchi. Benim shochin kachal kolochin the bechina shegenegda betachton kach. And they flow down these portions, the bechina shenegda betachton, but that bechina that corresponds to it in the lower world, which we're just saying. So that means so betachton kach. A nefesh niten is the parts of nuk. He habechina hanik was demus. So why I like this word the most is I'm trying to think how Malchus is described as that. Haruach hu bebechinas hatzadid etzalim. V'cheim hamochen abenimim hameluvashim bekli anai deima. So let's say the first part he says the demus, or it's an image of some sort, bebechinas hanikra demus, and then the ruach, that is, it sounds like it's a little bit more physical if you use that language. Then the next part is the ruach comes in, that's inside of that, and it's going to be the tzaddik, the tzaddik, the benime, and the luvash b'klichan nai the ima. So that's the ruach. The ruach is going to go into the nai of ima. Umispashta b'tzokatatious spheres is their anpen, and they spread into the 9 spheres of their anpen. V'kevin should call sphera kalula ma'aser. And since every sphera has 10 spheres in it, that's how you got the 90, the tzaddik. So then he says in the Shamba v'chachaya, those heim b'chidas hamekifim lamanamem, shehem mochim ha'meluvashim b'kelim dechagat nehem de'ima. These are in the upper section of Ima. Ima has 3 sections. She has the chagat nai. So what goes actually into Zer Anpin is from her nai. But the other part, which is not able to go into Zer Anpin, is coming from higher levels of Ima, which is called the chagat, which is called the Amaluvasha Bekele the Chagat Nehim de Ima. So they're in the, see, he says, I thought he was supposed to say the Chagat, but he says also in the bottom part of Ima, HAOMER b'chutz the Zer Anpin, which is outside of Zer Anpin, because they're makifim b'bechil makifim. V'hayechidah b'bechil a keser. It's the concept of keser. Keser is perhaps the kavana. Hanaasa b'shlish atachton the teferes the ima, which is made out of the lower third of the teferes of ima, as we know from the Otros Chaim, v'nita midrosh Zer Anpin, and it's placed into the rosh Zer Anpin. So all of these lights, he's giving a succession of how they go in. And then ultimately, we come to the number Lamed Bet. Number Lamed Bet, the Yaakov Arachel. Binyan Partzufi Yaakov Arachel. So what is that all about? So that's the Malchus. Sha'alecha Nimshachan HaMalchus. This is where the Malchus, V'chademus, U'misbach Hashemos, and also the counts, V'chanefashas HaKol Yom. The Fashas, I don't know what Hakol Yom of all day. Yesh bezecha b'deus beina mefarshim. There's different thoughts here. Mi hi ha-malchus hazu. What is this malchus? Who is this malchus? Ubepashtas a gavana the malchus aklalis datzilos. That's what it's talking about. Shehi rachel nuk dezer anpin. V'hamshacha the shvuch of shvi, and the hamshacha that comes on the 7th week. That's the week we are now in. This is also sort of the big deal in the RASHASH about last night. I'm sorry?
It's on the 6th week.
Yeah, I meant the end of the... yeah, I wanted to focus... yeah, you're right about that. So I wanted to focus on the 6 times 7. That's really what I want to say. Is that this is the number 42. 42 is Mob. So in the RASHASH Siddur, after there was a whole big deal there. That's the first time I really was able to look at it at all. I don't know what's going on. But this is the number 42, and a lot is going in now to this week. Let's see, would you say that in terms of the 7, that was the week of the Rishimo, so to speak. Is that the Rishimo's coming in. And in terms of the 7, this would be the week of the full Molchin coming in. So anyway, 42 is a big switch. However, he goes on to say, we see in other places that the 6th week, or not the 6th week, but the Rishimo seems to be more important than, or more powerful than the Molchin themselves. But anyway, chagtam. So he says the Malchus, the Orak, the Partzufim, chagtam, the Ovi, as we see in other places. So we're gonna. That's really was clean. Was that part there? I'm going to stop.